Just the same old Kings loss. That's what this was. Same old Kings loss from this season. Very similar to every single other loss that the Kings have had. You don't shoot the ball well from three. The closing offense looked horrible. You have multiple chances to pull away. You don't take them, and you only start really ramping things up once you go down. So many chances to pull away in this game. You don't take them, you get punished. Coming into a game in Memphis against a pretty healthy Memphis Grizzlies team that's 14-8 in Memphis, you're not necessarily expecting a win. Of course, you're hoping for a win, and it's absolutely a possibility, but this is a good Grizzlies team, right? So if you lose, it's not going to be so bad, right? But then you play the game, and the Grizzlies tried to hand you this game the entire time. The entire time. Ja Morant was horrible. He gets ejected for arguing, He's like trying to give you the game. The Grizzlies turned the ball over 7 times in the first 6 minutes of the third quarter. So many things that the Grizzlies did absolutely horribly. They didn't play well in this game. They didn't shoot well from 3. They turned the ball over a million times. Ja Morant gets ejected. The Kings have a lead. And it's like, what happened to the offense? And this has been a problem for the Kings pretty much all season. And so we saw in that Phoenix game, the beautiful Phoenix game, right? DeMar DeRozan knocking down every shot, De'Aaron Fox knocking down every shot. But outside of that game, we've had a few other good games closing down the stretch. But most of the time, the offense just isn't good because they go to DeMar DeRozan and he's relatively efficient with what he does, and that's fine. You're going to go to him. You're going to live with makes and misses from him when he's doing his thing in the mid-range. That's fine. But it's what happens on the possessions that you don't go to DeMar DeRozan that really irritates me. The fact that, well, one, even on the possessions that you are trying to go to DeMar DeRozan, why are you not trying to get him deeper and actually running some plays instead of just tossing it to him so far out on the perimeter? But then two, on the plays where you're not going to DeMar, there was just nothing going to the basket. And so the Kings had the ability to pull away. They had a 1-possession lead for so long. The Grizzlies were missing shots. But it's like what it was the entire game, where neither of these teams deserved to win this game. They both played horribly. It was just them taking turns trying to throw the game back to each other. Because the end of this game, obviously it was disappointing when they miss a clear call on Bane traveling and it ends up going out of bounds and they challenge and it's Grizzly ball and they score, or when Sabonis gets pushed in the back by Jaren. Should have been free throws for Sabonis. Instead, it's free throws for the Grizzlies. You can say those things down the stretch are what made the difference because we lose by, it's 5, but there's a 3-point difference in the end. But the thing is, you shouldn't be in that position at all at that point of the game. This team just, it seems lacks that killer instinct when you want to put a team away. When you're up 1 possession and you have that ability to put a team away because they're not playing well and they just don't do it. Or in the third quarter, even, you back up a little bit when they're turning the ball over time after time after time. You don't put them away then because you didn't capitalize on the offensive end because you didn't execute. Or go back even further in the first half when you get a lead and then you get past those weird bench lineups that we were throwing out there. And this has been a theme too, where it's we throw out these weird bench lineups and you're like, oh, this is ugly. But then somehow we still have the lead, or at least are tied, right? Your best players come back in the game to end the second quarter and you just throw the lead away. So there were just so many moments in this game where the Kings were not able to have that killer instinct and put a Grizzlies team that was playing horribly and trying to gift you the game, not putting them away. Because I get it, it's a game of runs early on, so you can forgive the team for not putting the Grizzlies away in the first half. You're still within 1 by halftime in Memphis, even the third quarter. But when it comes down to the fourth quarter, when you have all of those opportunities to put them away and you're not able to convert offensively, it's just so disappointing. The Kings are getting up there in terms of teams that have lost the most clutch games this season. But I'll get to the fourth quarter in a bit. We can go back a little. We can start from the beginning of this game. Because at the beginning of this game, the Kings offense looked beautiful. they were just getting whatever they wanted in the interior. It was those interior Sabonis screens. Kings were just getting easy layups. DeMar also was getting super involved early, and he was getting it done. Malik Monk was dominating in the two-man game with Sabonis. And so we saw some beautiful offense that we then didn't see in the fourth quarter. But they were a little asleep defensively. Like, you had Sabonis getting beat off the dribble by Jaren. Keegan fell asleep on an inbound play against Desmond Bane, gave him an open three. They were just allowing too many open corner threes. You had Malik Monk getting exposed with his size, kind of. And overall, the Kings just did a bad job of closing out on the corners. And I mean, Malik Monk is just a bad defender. And DeMar also is a bad defender. You don't, when I see DeMar and Sabonis there in the paint, I'm like, and there's a guy in the corner, like, no one's getting out to that corner, right? And you kind of have Malik Monk being the one getting beat on back cuts or getting beat off the dribble all the time. So that's the problem with this starting lineup defensively. And we knew that. Like, that's not a secret. That's something that we knew. I do think Malik should be better defensively. Like, he was amazing offensively in this game. And he has been amazing offensively for a while now. But yeah, watching him play defense is not fun. He's so quick. He's so athletic. He may not be the biggest, but he should be able to be better defensively. And he's just not. We saw Herder come in again, and I thought he did a really good job defensively. He was closing to the corners. He was getting in the passing lanes. I also like that he drove to the rim, and even though he missed, but he was trying to make things happen off the dribble. So I liked that when Herder came in right away. It was like good things were happening. And then you had Isaac Jones hitting a corner three. So it was like, okay, the bench, we're going to see some bench contributions again. But unfortunately, we didn't get too much after those moments. But the Kings were able to get in the paint, get to the free throw line. They didn't attempt too many threes, but they were shooting efficiently early on when they did. Then, for some reason, we went with almost an all-bench lineup. Plus, it was an all-bench lineup plus Keegan Murray. And that was just odd. And it was an all-bench lineup plus Keegan, but no Keon Ellis. We had Jordan McLaughlin in there. And so we had a lead, and we just kind of threw it away. Like, knowingly throwing a lead away is an interesting decision because there's no shot that that lineup was ever going to maintain that lead when you have McLaughlin, Keegan Murray, Kevin Herter, Isaac Jones, and Jay Crowder. Where's the offense coming from in that lineup? And so you have Jordan McLaughlin out there over Keon Ellis. Now, that's not even necessarily what the weird decision is. Because in that type of lineup, you need ball handling. So, of course, you need J-Mac out there. The weird decision is, why do we need J-Mac to be the primary ball handler when you could just have Fox, Monk, Sabonis, DeRozan, any of them be in the game at that point? That was the weird part. Malik Monk played 32 minutes in this game. You're telling me he couldn't have played 2 to 3 more minutes at the end of that quarter to captain that group? Like, that was a weird decision. And yeah, so I mean, that's the reason why McLaughlin played over Keon Ellis was because they needed ball handling, but the only reason they needed ball handling was because you weren't playing any of your top 4 guys. So that was just a very weird rotation. And we didn't see that in the second half because it clearly didn't work. But not having Keon play in another game, he played 2 minutes. He played 1 minute in the third, 1 minute in the fourth. It's just an odd decision because in the Rockets game, it's like, okay, they have size. There's no one you really need Keon to defend. So, I mean, from that perspective, I guess I could understand, even though I definitely don't agree with it still. But then to come in against the Grizzlies when they're playing super fast, when there are guards to defend, and to still not play him, and to play more than 3 bench players and it not be Keon, is just such an odd decision, especially when he's a 40+% three-point shooter. And Kevin Herter ends up going 0 for 6 from 3 in this game. Your only bench three-pointer was Isaac Jones. You're struggling from 3. You're struggling defensively. It's just a bad decision. I mean, clearly. But to start the second, the Kings they got the lead right back after that weird bench lineup. Fox playing great defense on Ja. Keegan also played great defense on Ja throughout this game. Both of them took the challenge and were very good, and they forced Ja into a lot of three-point attempts. He took 6 and missed all of them. And you could say the same about Fox, who missed 7 of them. And the Kings offense was still rolling, and you had Monk, who was hot, hitting step back threes, and his three ball has just been falling a lot. You had a Fox to Isaac Jones oop, which was really fun because the Grizzlies were turning the ball over, so they were running in transition. The only problem then was something that just kills me with this team is the amount of buckets they allow in transition off of their own made baskets. And it kills me because I don't even get to see how it happens. Because the Kings make a basket, the camera crew, production, they zoom in on who made the basket as they're backing up the court. But right before they zoom in, you can see the Grizzlies inbounding quickly. So then by the time you're back at the full court shot, the Grizzlies are at the rim. They're in the paint. They're shooting a 3. And so we have no idea what happens. So I have no idea what the breakdown is because we can't see it. But the Kings allow so many baskets off of their own makes, and it kills momentum. And that is one of the biggest reasons that they can't build bigger leads than they do, because they're just allowing so many baskets in transition off their own made baskets. And I don't even think it gets counted. It doesn't get counted into fast break stats. I don't think most of them. I don't think they count those. And so I don't think it shows up in the stat sheet really. But yeah, I mean, there was one, Santi Aldama just hits a 3 because Crowder's late to close out. And there's no one else on the Grizzlies even around. And so they're so disappointing. And one of the reasons it's just so horrible is because of the way that the NBC sports production does it, where you can see them inbound the ball. You know exactly what's going to happen. Somehow the Grizzlies are going to end up in the paint, or they're going to end up shooting an open 3. You don't know how it's going to happen because you're zoomed in on De'Aaron Fox or DeMar DeRozan. And it kills me every time. I mean, I could go on and on about how horrible the production on NBC Sports is. But yeah, they just show the game. Please, just show the game. Life would be so much better if they would just stop making things complicated and would just show the game. But that's getting sidetracked because, I hate the production. But despite that horrible transition defense, the Kings in the half court were playing pretty well in that second quarter, at the start at least, for the first half. And they were getting a lot of stops on the interior. Sabonis was making plays. Keegan was making plays. Herter was making plays on the interior. Finally, you got some 3 balls to go down. DeMar hit a corner 3. Keegan hit a corner 3. And it really is wild watching what happens when the Kings can make 3s, because you just look over and that score goes from 1 possession lead to a 3 possession lead in an instant when you're just making 3s, or double digit lead. That's why it hurts so much when the Kings just go so cold. And that's why the Kings end up in these dogfights in games that they shouldn't be in dogfights late in. Like, this was not a game the Kings should have been, in a clutch game. This should have been a blowout for the Kings pretty easily. And they let the Grizzlies back in late in that second quarter, and it was a 19-6 end to that half for the Grizzlies. And it started a little before this, but one of the main catalysts was Monk thinking he got fouled, then not getting back on defense. That just, it irritates me so much. You can argue with the ref all you want at a dead ball, but get back on defense, because it allows a 3 to get the Grizzlies within 5. I mean, that's a big moment, that's a big momentum play. And you just let it happen because you're walking and, barking at the ref. Like, get back on defense. Monk can be such a fun player. He can be such a great player, and he can also be such a frustrating player because he does stuff like that and he gets back cut constantly on defense. But the Kings just went cold to end the first half. A lot of awkward plays, misses inside. And then they played some absolutely awful defense. Jay Huff was hot, and I think it was Marcus Smart comes around a pick, and both players go to the ball, and Jay Huff pops out for a 3 wide open. Easy as that. Like, it was the easiest play. It's Marcus Smart. This ain't Ja Morant. So And even if it is John Morant, when Jay Huff has just made multiple threes and you still allow him to pop out, there's no help, you're doubling ball. Like, that just can't happen. Easy three. Then Monk gets back cut. Easy dunk for Jay Huff. So it's just some inexcusable moments defensively to end the half. And that's why the Kings were down one. That third quarter was one of the worst quarters of basketball that I've watched this season. Just all around. Both teams, horrible basketball. Fox needed more shots inside the arc. And, some of them were grenades that he was catching for three balls, but he didn't get that many shots in the first half. He got more in the second, but felt like he needed some more shots inside the arc, and he ended up getting them. But just to start the third quarter, he didn't. But what Fox was doing, he was stripping the ball from the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, like I said, 7 turnovers within the first 6 minutes of that quarter. And the Kings weren't able to capitalize. Like, he stripped him, set up an open corner three for Keegan. Clank. He strips him again, throws a hit-ahead pass to Keegan. Keegan doesn't grab the ball. Keegan was just killing me, man. Keegan cannot grab balls. He's a slow-moving player. He can't grab balls that are below his knees. He just can't. And there's a lot more thoughts that I have about Keegan, but I'll save that to the end. I'll keep going here. Neither team could execute. Both teams were turning the ball over. We got to see Keon for a minute. It was a fun minute, and then he went out again. That was sad. But the Kings, they got a lead. They were down one going into the third quarter. They got a lead in the middle of it, but it should have been so much more. If they just could have capitalized off of these Grizzlies' mistakes. The Kings shot a lot of threes in that third quarter, and they missed a lot of threes. When the Kings are running offense like they did in the first quarter, where they're just getting to the rim at will, they're getting such good shots, their offense is beautiful. You don't need threes, or you don't even need to be shooting threes well. But then in the third quarter, they were just chucking up threes, and a lot of them were open, so I say chucking up, but it was just clank, clank, clank. Fox 0 for 7, Keegan 1 for 7, and Herter 0 for 6, Crowder 0 for 2. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to Kevin Herter and Keegan Murray 0 for 6, 1 for 7. That's the biggest difference between this game and the Rockets game. There are other differences, but that's the biggest one. And so the Kings didn't capitalize when the Grizzlies were playing poorly. And so then what happens is the bench lineups kind of come in, bench players come in, and the Grizzlies obviously have a big advantage there. And the Kings continue with their terrible offense, and the Grizzlies actually clean it up. And they go on a 15-0 run with the Kings going like 4.5 minutes without making a field goal. Isaac Jones missed 2 free throws in there. I mean, they got some offensive rebounds, but yeah, you're going to get some offensive rebounds when you miss as many shots and especially threes as the Kings did. Eventually, Herter finally got on the board inside, and then Fox came in, settled things down, went on a run. He ended it on an 8-0 run, or 8-0 run for the team, 6-0 run for himself. So that was big, and that's exactly what you need Fox to do. That was perfect. That's what he should be doing, calming things down when things aren't going well and taking over in those moments when you feel like you need it, because things could have gotten really out of hand there. But I just wish, the Kings could have capitalized offensively earlier, and then they wouldn't have needed that. And it was kind of the same thing to start the fourth, where Fox was turning the Grizzlies over, but they couldn't make an open three. Fox even intercepted another pass and then threw it right back, and the Grizzlies capitalized. And so it's just the Kings missing a lot of shots. Felt like things were going poorly, but the Kings kind of stayed in it. DeRozan was getting to the free throw line. Ja got ejected. But, I mean, that kind of hurt the Kings because Ja was horrible in this game. But that should have been a moment where, the Kings capitalized. They got some free throws that got them a 2-point lead, right? And instead, you just had possession after possession of bad shots, just mid-rangers, no getting to the rim, no even really 3-point shots. And it was from DeMar, it was from Fox and Monk. And then you have, the Kings got quite a few stops, but eventually the Grizzlies are going to score. And they allowed a rebound off of a free throw that put the Grizzlies up 3. And so it was only then that the Kings got inside and Monk got inside and made a floater layup to cut it to 1. And then Keegan got a floater opportunity as well inside, but he missed. And then the Grizzlies just beat the Kings down the floor. And so you have Jay Huff just beating you, just outrunning you, outworking you. And again, it's that transition defense. Kings stayed in it with DeMar getting to the line, Fox getting a steal, who passed to Keegan. Keegan drove, Monk in the corner for 3. Monk keeping us in it there. And then that's kind of when you had some unfortunate officiating where like Bane drags his pivot foot pretty clearly. Kings, Monk should have boxed out there, and so it shouldn't have even mattered. Ball goes out of bounds. Kings ball, but overturned after replay. That leads to just Bane getting too easy of a jumper in the mid-range. And then you have that Monk miss. That was the Sabonis. Got called for a foul, even though he got pushed in the back by Jaren. So it should have been free throws for us. But the Kings still had a chance. They were within 3, and DeRozan, tries to back down on the baseline, but it hadn't been working lately for him. And he, turns baseline, tries to force a pass into Sabonis, and it's a jump ball that the Kings lose. So just an awful play there. More just awful offense down the stretch. That's one of the main things the Kings need to figure out, because it feels like that's something that the Kings should be able to figure out. When it comes to the 3-point shooting of this team, I mean, what are you going to do? That's just personnel. That's just Keegan and Kevin Huerter being your 3-point shooters and not making shots. But when it comes to that offense down the stretch, that's got to be something that the Kings figure out. Jaren kind of tried to gift us back into it by carrying, but then Monk misses that 3. It shouldn't have been that close late. The Kings, after Ja got ejected, the Kings should have been able to pull away. And they weren't. And that just comes to your star players not being able to score down the stretch. And they just have to play better. I mean, there's nothing else to it, because you assembled this team to be a great clutch offense, and it is not doing that at all. Shout out to Mike Brown, at least, for actually winning some challenges late. So that was good. He had some clutch challenges, I guess. He's been much better when it comes to challenges this season, but didn't matter in the end. 2 seasons ago, the season the Kings made the playoffs, if you told me it was a tie game with 6 minutes to go, I'm like, Kings are winning this easily. Last season, as the season went on, that confidence changed, and I would be like, okay, we've lost the game if it's tied with 6 minutes to go. This season, you're hoping with the addition of DeMar DeRozan that, the whole point was like you go back to what we had 2 seasons ago, and that just hasn't happened. And so, you tell me that we're up to with 4 minutes to go or 3 minutes to go, whatever it was. I'm not confident at all that the Kings are going to pull that out. And I wasn't. And I was right to be, because this is the story of the entire season. When you look at some individual performances, I mean, I want to start with Keegan. Because Keegan, he was great defensively. He was amazing on jaw. He still has he's great on ball. A little less when it comes to navigating around screens off ball. But he had a great game defensively. And he was a big reason why the Kings held Ja to a season low in points. And he was also amazing rebounding. He had 11 rebounds, 8 defensive, 3 offensive. He had a lot of tip outs on the offensive end. Kings got a lot of key offensive rebounds. They got 14. Problem is there were a lot to be had. And Keegan went 4 for 12, 1 for 7 from 3 for 11 points. It's just been so disappointing because he's just missing these open threes. And the thing with this game, I liked the shots that he took. I liked when he was driving to the rim when he got closed out hard. I liked he was driving to the rim, making good decisions, going to his floater, making the passes when necessary. And the ball just didn't go through the hoop. And so, he's still young, and I still have faith in him, right? And we've seen what he can do. And the problem, I think, that, people started losing a little bit of faith recently was because the process wasn't there. He had lost all confidence, and he wasn't shooting the right shots. He wasn't getting inside when he was getting run off the 3-point line. He was making bad decisions on the inside. But in these last 2 games, the process has been there. He's making the right decisions, and he just needs to be able to hit the shots. I mean, it's as simple as that, because he has been great defensively, but this Kings team does need more from him. This is your 4th overall pick. This is your guy that's going to get paid, and if he wants to get paid a lot of money with this upcoming extension, he just has to produce more offensively. And I want to talk about Kevin Huerter then, because he comes in, and again, for him, in this game, the process was right. It's definitely not always right for him. The process is not always right. But it was, he took the right shots. I think on that last play, it looked like he was kind of open. Maybe could have taken the shot, but I think like you have Santi Aldama coming over to contest. Like he might have even gotten blocked if he tries to shoot that. I'm not sure. So I'm not mad at him for passing to Monk there. But he goes 0 for 6 from 3. And you just need more. 6 points, like he scored inside a few times, but you just need more. Sure, he was making the right plays defensively. When he came in early, he was the best team defender out there. He was the guy who was making all the right rotations when other guys just weren't, and when other guys were leaving guys open in the corner. He was really making the right plays, but it doesn't matter because he's not knocking down his 3-point shots. Like it just doesn't matter unless he can shoot, unless the ball goes through the rim, because that is basketball. That's basketball. And if he can't shoot the ball, Keon can do all the same things plus more defensively. No, he's not as good when it comes to like attacking closeouts, getting to the rim and making good decisions there, but he's young and that can definitely come along. And more importantly, he can actually hit threes. He's over a 40% 3-point shooter, because you can talk about the gravity a player provides. Kevin Huerter definitely has more gravity than Keon Ellis. He creates more space, there's no doubt. But again, that does not matter if you actually just never make the shots. This is the type of game where for both Keegan and Kevin offensively, if they had been shooting fine all season long, then you just chalk this up to like, bad luck. You'll get them next time. And as the Kings as a whole, the same thing. Bad luck. You'll get them next time. But this is who the Kings are. They go 8 for 35 from 3. That's just who they are. Looking at other individual performances, you have Sabonis going 7 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. 17 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 turnovers. A very solid game for him. Thought he was making the right plays after being, a little shaky defensively at the very start. He cleaned that up. I thought, don't really have much else to say about Sabonis. Just a solid game. Don't have too much good or bad to say. Just another Sabonis game. DeMar, I liked how aggressive he was early. He went 6 for 15 from the field, 13 for 14 from the free throw line. It says he went 1 for 1 from 3, so I guess he had his foot on the line on one of them, because pretty sure he attempted another one, but he does that a lot. He has his foot on the line a lot. 26 points, didn't have a great defensive game, but again, that's normal. With him, I love that the Kings got him going early. Then his shot, it stopped falling as much, but he was still drawing fouls in the fourth quarter. So he was getting to the free throw line, he was knocking those down. My problem comes when it's like, okay, you're not knocking down shots. Sure, sometimes you're getting to the free throw line. Of course, you want to go to him sometimes, but my problem was when the Kings just come down and it's like only find DeMar DeRozan in what's not even a great spot. He wasn't having much success backing down pretty strong defenders like Desmond Bane, and he wasn't getting far into the paint, so he was having to take very long mid-range shots. And so my problem is like, it was too many possessions in a row of going to him when his shot wasn't falling. If his shot's falling, go to him time after time. And if his shot isn't falling, then yeah, you draw up plays sometimes to get him the ball in better positions, or he can bail you out late in shot clock. If you try to run some offense, you try to get someone else a shot and it doesn't go well, you throw it to him, then he can take a jumper. He's probably going to take the same jumper as if you tried to get it to him earlier in the possession. So when he's not knocking down his shots consistently, like he wasn't late in this game, I think you just have to try to get more offense elsewhere. And then if it doesn't work, you go to him as the bailout. I think also there was a moment where he had the ball up top. He could just swing that to Malik Monk. Like I've noticed every once in a while, like once every other game, he has a moment where he could easily swing the ball to an open player. And it's usually off like an offensive rebound, so the defense is kind of scrambling, and he could swing it. And he just kind of like holds on to it. Like he thinks about it and he holds on to it. And then maybe he even makes that pass, but it's just too late then. He had one of those to Monk. And so I think it's just all about the Kings not utilizing him well, but also him needing to realize he needs to get off the ball a little bit more in moments when he's not knocking down his shot. And that just comes with the Kings needing to find a better balance in their clutch time offense. Because then you have De'Aaron Fox, and I just thought he should have been on the ball more. I mean, he went 8 for 23 on the game, 0 for 7 from 3. You know, his 3-point attempts were not great. Some of them grenades, and that's fine, but him and Ja were going back and forth, frustrating their own fan bases by not getting into the paint. I'm sure Grizzlies fans were annoyed by that with Ja. But then when Fox did get into the paint, I mean, there were times early in this game, it felt like he had room right in the middle of the paint that he could easily rise up, and he just didn't take it. And then late in this game, you know, he got a couple of shots to fall, but he was missing his floater. I mean, some of them were really far off. Like, some of his floaters were bad, and he was open too. But I still wanted to see him a little more on the ball there, and I just think the Kings needed to do a better job of running offense in the clutch. Malik Monk was great whenever he got the ball. I mean, he was like 2 for 3 in the clutch, I think, at least that I can remember. And he was the only guy out here consistently knocking down the 3 ball, 4 for 9 from 3, 7 for 16 from the field, 23 points, 5 assists, second straight game with 0 turnovers. The offense looks great with him starting, you know, in that initial unit. Defense, not so much. I feel like if he just locked in, it feels like he could be a better defender than he is. But he's such an elite pick and roll player, and we saw a lot of that in this. Then you go to the bench. I already talked about Kevin Huerter, already talked about Keon Ellis. McLaughlin didn't do much, and I talked about why he was in the game. So then we have Isaac Jones, played 16 minutes, actually missed a shot around the rim, actually missed 2. You know, those were surprising misses. He went 4 for 7, so he probably missed another one I'm not remembering. Him actually missing shots is wild. One of them just like went all the way around and then out. But he came in and was solid again. Again, 0 for 2 on free throws. He has already this season, I think, had 3 different times where he's missed both free throws in a set. So that's somewhere that needs improvement. But he knocked down that corner 3, which was very encouraging to see. Still came in and gave you good minutes, 9 points and a block, 3 rebounds. Just game after game, he is producing off the bench. And then you have Jay Crowder, 13 minutes, 0 for 4, 0 for 2 from 3. What I didn't like about his game was one moment where he had an open 3. He had already missed 2 prior, and he passed it up. Some of his threes are very questionable. Like, I feel like he takes them when the defense is kind of up on him. But then now, after you miss 2, you're passing up an open one? That can't happen. And it was after the Kings missed a bunch. And I feel like it's just this common cycle we've seen where Kings miss open 3s, lose confidence. Now they pass up open 3s and turn the ball over inside. Malik did the same thing practically on the next possession where he passed up, but definitely could have been a 3-point shot for him. Instead tries to force a pass inside and turns it over. So it just feels like when the Kings are knocking down these 3s, then they proceed to take less 3s. But if the other team is giving you those 3s, you just have to take them. Because when you don't, the paint is already clogged. You're driving in there and you're getting a bad shot, or you're just forcing yourself into a late shot clock situation where efficiency drops a lot and you're more likely to turn it over. It's just really, this game is really disappointing because that Houston game could have been a turning point. In this game, the refs allowed a lot of physicality again, which was kind of fun to see 2 straight games, but the Kings showed that, no, this is not the turning point. They did just the exact same things that they've done all season that has lost them games. So the Kings now go to San Antonio on the second night of a back-to-back. You've already lost to them twice. You had a really bad loss to them in the last one where you lost by 2. You shouldn't have lost that game. It's going to be very interesting because we saw how the Kings tried to play against Victor Wembanyama, and it was switch everything. Kings completely failed in that execution. Mike Brown talked about it after the game, and, you know, to my own horn, pretty much he said exactly what I said, just saying. But no, he just, you know, he said that the plan was to switch everything, and they just didn't execute that well. And so then he said, well, before I get to that, he said that the Kings, what they were trying to eliminate was they wanted him to just ISO. They wanted to keep him in front of whoever it was, even if it was a guard switched onto him, just stay in front, make him take that turnaround. And if he beats you through scoring, so be it. Don't let others beat you off of his passes. And the Kings completely failed in that execution. They just were playing way too far into the gaps and did exactly what Mike Brown was trying to prevent, which was open 3s for other players. So after that, he said, some of that is on him because while yes, the team didn't execute well, he has to recognize that if they're not doing what he is telling them, then he eventually just has to kind of try something else. And so that's what makes it interesting. I don't know, are they going to try to actually execute switching everything? Or are they going to come with a different game plan? So that's definitely what I'm going to be watching. That's the main thing. But you can't lose another game to San Antonio because that's a team you're going to be competing with for these spots. So you can't lose another game here. Also, the Kings they're coming up on a very home heavy schedule where they don't play outside of California till like the 10th. Once they play New Orleans on the 12th, they don't play outside of California until January 10th. Their only road games are against the Lakers once and the Warriors once. They play a whole bunch of home games, including the Lakers 3 times. So just coming up this month of December, it's their chance to turn things around because they have so many home games. They have a favorable schedule. This game against Memphis, again, it could have been that continuation of a turnaround after that game in Houston. It wasn't. So we're just going to continue to look for when that turnaround could come. Maybe it never will. But, I'm not losing faith yet that it can still come. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel, No Rain and Joe Mama, for the support. And I will see you guys tomorrow to recap the game against the Spurs. Peace.